In a galaxy where interstellar politics and intrigue reign supreme, an exiled alien princess finds herself alone on an unfamiliar planet after a coup. As various factions plot to capture or kill her, she is unexpectedly protected by a lone human guardian. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned, this human, with unmatched determination and resourcefulness, becomes her unwavering protector. Together they must navigate a web of danger, betrayal, and hidden alliances, forging a bond that could change the fate of both their worlds. And so, the story begins. The grand palace of the Celestial Kingdom stood tall and imposing, its opulent spires reaching towards the heavens. Leora, the young princess, hurried through the marble hallways, her heart pounding in her chest. The sound of distant explosions echoed through the corridors, a grim reminder of the chaos unfolding outside. Her once peaceful kingdom was under siege. "Leora, this way." A voice called out. It was General Kale, one of the few remaining loyalists. He led her down a hidden passage, his stern face etched with determination. "We need to get you to safety." As they moved through the palace, Leora caught glimpses of the battle outside. The once beautiful gardens were now scarred with craters, and the air was thick with smoke. The loyal guards fought bravely, but they were hopelessly outnumbered by the traitorous forces of General Tarkov, the leader of the coup. They reached the palace's hidden hangar, where a small spacecraft awaited them. "This ship will take you to the neutral planet of Elysia," Kale explained. "There, you'll be safe." Leora nodded, trying to keep her composure. "What about my family, my people?" "We'll do everything we can to protect them," Kale assured her. "But you must survive. You're the last hope for our kingdom." As they prepared to board the spacecraft, a sudden explosion rocked the hangar. Leora stumbled, her ears ringing from the blast. She turned to see enemy soldiers pouring into the room. Kale drew his blaster and opened fire, covering her retreat. "Go, princess!" "Now!" he shouted. Leora hesitated for a moment, then ran towards the ship. She climbed aboard, the hatch sealing behind her. The engines roared to life, and the craft lifted off, ascending into the chaotic skies. She watched as the palace grew smaller beneath her, tears streaming down her face. Mid-flight, the ship's alarms blared. Enemy fighters had detected them and were closing in fast. The pilot, a seasoned veteran, tried to evade the incoming fire, but the small craft was no match for the heavily armed fighters. The ship shuddered violently as it took a direct hit. Brace for impact. The pilot yelled as they plummeted towards the surface of a nearby planet. The crash was brutal. Leora was thrown from her seat, the impact knocking the wind out of her. She lay there, dazed and disoriented, as the wreckage of the ship smoldered around her. She could hear the faint sounds of approaching footsteps, enemy soldiers closing in to finish the job. Just as she thought all hope was lost, a shadow fell over her. She looked up to see a tall figure clad in rugged armor. A human. He extended a hand towards her, his expression grim but determined. "Stay close, Your Highness," he said, helping her to her feet. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Jack," he replied, "and I'm here to protect you." With practiced efficiency, Jack led Leora away from the crash site, moving swiftly through the dense forest that surrounded them. The sounds of the enemy grew fainter as they put distance between themselves and the wreckage. They finally stopped in a small clearing, where Jack turned to face her. "Why are you helping me, a complete stranger?" Leora asked, her eyes filled with a mixture of suspicion and curiosity. "I have my reasons," Jack said, his gaze unwavering. "But for now, let's focus on keeping you alive." They spent the night in the forest, Jack standing guard while Leora tried to rest. The unfamiliar surroundings and the weight of recent events made sleep elusive, but exhaustion eventually overcame her. As dawn broke, they set off again, navigating through the thick underbrush. "We need to keep moving," Jack said. "The enemy will be searching for us." Leora nodded, determination hardening her resolve. She was no longer just a princess, she was a fugitive, fighting for her survival. And with Jack by her side, she felt a glimmer of hope. Together they would navigate this web of danger, betrayal, and hidden alliances, forging a bond that could change the fate of both their worlds. The dense alien forest stretched out before them, a maze of towering trees and thick underbrush. Leora followed Jack closely, her eyes scanning their surroundings for any signs of danger. The forest was alive with strange sounds: the rustling of leaves, the calls of unfamiliar creatures, and the distant roar of cascading waterfalls. Jack moved with practiced ease, his movements swift and silent. He seemed to know the terrain well, guiding Leora through the most treacherous paths with confidence. They encountered local wildlife along the way, some of which were less than friendly. At one point, a pack of four-legged predators with gleaming fangs and glowing eyes ambushed them. Jack quickly dispatched them with his blaster, his precision and calm demeanor a stark contrast to the chaos around them. "Stay behind me," he instructed, his eyes never leaving the trees. Leora watched in awe as Jack demonstrated his survival skills. He set traps for smaller creatures, gathered edible plants, and found fresh water sources with ease. Despite the dire circumstances, she couldn't help but admire his resourcefulness. As the days passed, Leora began to adapt to the harsh environment. She learned to identify safe plants to eat, how to start a fire, and even how to use a basic blaster. Jack was a patient teacher, and his steady presence gave her a sense of security. One evening, as they sat by a crackling fire, Leora looked at Jack with newfound respect. "I never thought I'd be living like this," she admitted, her voice tinged with a mix of sadness and determination. "You're stronger than you think, Princess," Jack replied, his eyes reflecting the flickering flames. They discovered a small settlement hidden deep within the forest. The locals, humanoid beings with pale blue skin and large, expressive eyes, reacted with suspicion and curiosity to their arrival. Jack and Leora approached cautiously, hands raised in a gesture of peace. The settlement leader, an elderly man named Thaler, eyed them warily. "What brings outsiders to our secluded home?" he asked, his voice filled with suspicion. "We mean no harm," Jack said. "We're seeking refuge and information." Thaler considered them for a moment before nodding. "You may stay, but know that trust is not given lightly here." The settlement provided them with temporary shelter, a small hut on the outskirts of the village. Leora and Jack settled in, grateful for the respite. As they interacted with the locals, they learned more about the political turmoil that had spread throughout the galaxy. Rumors swirled about the coup that had overthrown Leora's family. The settlement's inhabitants spoke of power struggles, hidden agendas, and alliances that shifted like the sands of time. Jack listened intently, gathering as much information as he could. "We can't stay here any longer," Jack said one night, his voice low. "The enemy will eventually find us." Leora nodded, understanding the gravity of their situation. "Where will we go?" "There's a safe place, but it's a risk," Jack replied. "A hidden rebel base. They might be our only hope." "Then we go," Leora said firmly. "I trust you, Jack." With their decision made, they prepared to leave the settlement. The locals provided them with supplies and wished them well, their expressions a mix of hope and uncertainty. As they ventured back into the wilderness, Leora couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. Their journey through the forest was fraught with challenges. They encountered more hostile wildlife, navigated treacherous terrain, and faced the ever-present threat of discovery by enemy forces. But through it all, Jack remained a steadfast protector, his leadership and protective instincts shining through. Leora, too, found herself growing stronger. She adapted to the harsh environment, her resilience and determination driving her forward. The bond between her and Jack deepened, forged in the crucible of their shared struggle. One evening, as they sat by a fire under the starlit sky, Jack looked at Leora with a rare smile. "You've come a long way, Leora." She returned his smile, feeling a warmth in her heart. "Together we can do this," she said confidently. As they continued their journey, Leora began to understand the depth of Jack's resourcefulness. He was more than just a guardian, he was a leader, a teacher, and a friend. And with him by her side, she felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The settlement was a small, tight-knit community. Despite the initial wariness, Jack and Leora managed to blend in, staying in the shadows and avoiding drawing too much attention. The villagers were abuzz with news about the political turmoil sweeping through the galaxy. Leora listened intently to the conversations, trying to piece together the fragmented information. Jack spent his days gathering intelligence from local informants. He was skilled at navigating the underworld, making contacts and leveraging favors. Leora, meanwhile, attempted to contact potential allies discreetly. She sent out encoded messages, hoping to reach those still loyal to her family. One evening, as Leora sat in their small hut, Jack returned with a grave expression. "We need to leave. Now." "What's happened?" Leora asked, her heart racing. "A bounty hunter has arrived in the village," Jack replied. "He's looking for you." Panic surged through Leora, but she forced herself to stay calm. "Where will we go?" Jack glanced around, ensuring no one was listening. "I've heard whispers about a hidden rebel base. It might be our only chance." They gathered their belongings and slipped out of the hut under the cover of darkness. The village was eerily quiet, the only sounds being the rustling leaves and distant animal calls. They moved quickly and silently, making their way through narrow alleys and shadowy pathways. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, blocking their path. It was the bounty hunter, a menacing figure clad in dark armor. His eyes gleamed with malevolent intent as he raised his weapon. "Hand over the princess, and I'll let you live," he growled. Jack stepped forward, placing himself between Leora and the bounty hunter. "You'll have to go through me first." The bounty hunter smirked, his weapon trained on Jack. "So be it." In a flash, Jack lunged at the bounty hunter, disarming him with a swift, practiced move. They grappled in a fierce struggle, their movements a blur of speed and precision. Leora watched in awe as Jack's combat skills shone through, his determination unwavering. With a final, powerful strike, Jack incapacitated the bounty hunter. He turned to Leora, breathing heavily. "We need to move. Now." They fled into the forest, the sounds of their pursuers' footsteps growing fainter behind them. As they ran, Leora's mind raced. The bounty hunter's presence meant their enemies were closing in. They needed to find the rebel base before it was too late. After hours of trekking through the dense forest, they finally came across a hidden entrance. Jack knocked on the concealed door, following a sequence he had learned from his informants. The door creaked open, revealing a group of rebels, their weapons at the ready. "Who are you?" one of them demanded, eyeing Jack and Leora suspiciously. "We seek refuge," Jack said. "This is Princess Leora. We're here to join the rebellion." The rebels exchanged glances before nodding and allowing them inside. The hidden base was a bustling hive of activity, with rebels preparing for the battles to come. Leora felt a surge of hope. They had found a safe haven, a place where they could fight back. The leader of the rebels, a stern woman named Captain Mira, approached them. "Welcome. We've been expecting you." Leora looked at her, determination in her eyes. "We're here to help, to fight back against the coup." Mira nodded, her expression serious. "Then you've come to the right place. We have much to discuss." As they settled into their new surroundings, Leora and Jack began to plan their next moves. They were no longer alone. They had found allies, and together they would fight to reclaim what had been taken from them. The journey to the rebel base had been grueling, but the sense of safety and purpose that enveloped Leora and Jack upon arrival was worth every hardship. The base was a hidden fortress, nestled deep within the forest, its camouflage blending seamlessly with the natural surroundings. Rebel scouts had intercepted them before they could reach the base's perimeter. After a tense exchange, they were escorted inside and introduced to the heart of the rebellion. Captain Mira, a formidable leader with a no-nonsense demeanor, welcomed them personally. "We've heard about the coup," Mira said, her piercing gaze fixed on Leora. "Your presence here is a symbol of hope for many." Leora felt a mixture of pride and responsibility. "I'm here to fight, to reclaim my throne and bring justice to those who betrayed us." Mira nodded approvingly. "We'll need your strength and leadership. But first, let's get you settled and prepared." The base was a hive of activity. Rebels trained in sparring matches, strategists huddled over maps, and engineers worked tirelessly on weaponry. Jack immediately integrated himself into the operations, his tactical expertise proving invaluable. He demonstrated combat techniques, shared survival tips, and even helped plan upcoming missions. Leora, meanwhile, found herself thrust into a leadership role she had never fully anticipated. She addressed the rebels, her voice steady and confident. "We fight not just for ourselves, but for the future of our people. Together we can overcome any obstacle." The rebels responded with cheers, their morale bolstered by her words. Leora's confidence grew with each passing day. She trained alongside the rebels, honing her skills and learning the intricacies of guerrilla warfare. Jack remained by her side, his presence a constant source of support and encouragement. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the training grounds, Jack approached Leora. "You've come a long way, Princess. You're becoming a true leader." Leora smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest. "I couldn't have done it without you, Jack." Their bond had deepened, forged in the fires of adversity. Leora began to see Jack not just as her protector, but as a confidant and friend. Jack, in turn, grew more emotionally open, sharing glimpses of his past and his reasons for fighting. As the days turned into weeks, the rebels finalized their plans for a counterattack. They aimed to strike a key enemy outpost, a bold move that would send a powerful message to their enemies. Leora was to lead the mission, a test of her newfound leadership. On the eve of the mission, Leora and Jack stood on a hill overlooking the rebel base. The air was thick with anticipation and the distant sounds of preparations. "Are you ready for this?" Jack asked, his voice soft but steady. Leora took a deep breath, the weight of her responsibility pressing down on her. "I am. We have to do this. For my family, for our people." Jack placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We're with you, Leora, all the way." The next morning, the rebels moved out under the cover of darkness. Leora led the charge, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. The journey to the enemy outpost was fraught with danger, but their training and Jack's strategic planning saw them through. They reached the outpost and launched their attack with precision and ferocity. Leora fought at the forefront, her skills honed to a deadly edge. Jack was a whirlwind of calculated violence, his every move protecting Leora and the rebels. The battle was intense, but the rebels' determination won the day. They took control of the outpost, securing vital resources and striking a blow against their enemies. As the dust settled, Leora stood amidst the wreckage, her chest heaving with exhaustion and triumph. "This is our chance to fight back," she declared to the assembled rebels. "We've shown them our strength. Now we press on." The rebels cheered, their spirits lifted by their victory. They had proven themselves, and their unity was stronger than ever. Leora looked at Jack, who nodded in silent approval. Back at the base, they celebrated their hard-won victory. But Leora knew this was just the beginning. The real fight lay ahead. As she stood among her comrades, she felt a surge of hope and determination. They were ready to reclaim their world, and she was ready to lead them. "We need to trust each other," Leora said, her voice carrying through the camp. "Only together can we achieve what we set out to do." Jack stood beside her, his presence a pillar of strength. "I believe in you, Leora. We all do." Their journey was far from over, but the bonds they had forged and the victories they had won gave them the courage to face whatever came next. With the rebel base as their sanctuary and their comrades as their family, they prepared for the battles to come, united in their quest for justice and freedom. The atmosphere in the rebel base had grown tense. Whispers of distrust and suspicion floated through the corridors. Something was wrong. Leora could feel it. One evening, as she and Jack were discussing their next moves, Captain Mira burst into their quarters. "We've discovered a traitor," she announced, her voice tight with anger. "Someone has been feeding information to the enemy." Leora's heart sank. "Who is it?" "We don't know yet, but we've narrowed it down to a few suspects," Mira replied. "We need to act quickly before they cause any more damage." Jack and Leora joined Mira and a group of trusted rebels in the dimly lit meeting room. Maps and data pads cluttered the table, and the tension was palpable. They began to review the evidence, piecing together clues and leads. Hours passed as they interrogated suspects and cross-referenced information. Finally, they zeroed in on a young rebel named Tarek. He had been acting suspiciously, and the evidence against him was damning. Jack and Leora exchanged a grim look. This was not going to be easy. They confronted Tarek in a small, windowless room. His eyes darted nervously around the room as he was led in, his hands bound. He looked at Leora with a mixture of fear and defiance. "Why, Tarek?" Leora asked, her voice laced with disappointment. "Why betray us?" Tarek's expression hardened. "I had no choice. They threatened my family. I had to do what they said." Leora felt a pang of sympathy, but she couldn't let his actions go unpunished. "What information did you give them?" "Everything about our plans and movements," Tarek admitted, his voice shaking. "But there's something you need to know. The coup plotters. They were working with someone close to your family. It wasn't just an outside attack. It was an inside job." Leora's blood ran cold. "Who?" Tarek hesitated before speaking. "Your uncle, Varian. He orchestrated the coup." Leora staggered back, the revelation hitting her like a physical blow. Her uncle, whom she had trusted, had betrayed them all. Anger and betrayal surged through her, but she forced herself to stay calm. "We need to act fast," Jack said, breaking the silence. "We have to expose this and prepare for a daring mission to the capital." The rebels quickly formulated a plan. They would strike at the heart of the enemy, exposing Varian's treachery and reclaiming the throne. It was a risky mission, but it was their best chance. As they prepared to depart, Leora felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was determined to confront her uncle and bring justice to her family and her people. Jack stood by her side, his loyalty unwavering. Before they left, Mira addressed the assembled rebels. "We've been betrayed, but we won't let it break us. We need to act quickly and strike hard. Together we can win this." The rebels nodded in agreement, their resolve strengthened. As they set out on their mission, Leora felt a fire burning within her. She would not rest until her family's honor was restored, and the traitors were brought to justice. The journey to the capital was fraught with danger. The rebels moved through dense forests, keeping to the shadows to avoid enemy patrols. Jack's tactical skills proved invaluable, helping them evade capture and navigate the treacherous terrain. One night, as they camped by a glittering river, Leora sat beside Jack, her mind heavy with thoughts of the upcoming battle. "Do you think we're ready for this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jack looked at her, his expression serious. "We've come a long way, Leora. You've grown into a strong leader. We'll face whatever comes together." Leora nodded, feeling a surge of determination. "I won't let my family down. We have to win this." As they continued their journey, they encountered natural obstacles that tested their resolve. They crossed a treacherous river, the swift currents threatening to sweep them away. With Jack's guidance, they managed to reach the other side, wet and exhausted but unbroken. They found brief respite at a hidden sanctuary, a small cave concealed by thick foliage. The rebels took the opportunity to rest and gather their strength. Leora used the time to learn more about Jack's past. He shared stories of his time as a soldier and the battles he had fought. "I've seen a lot of darkness in this galaxy," Jack said, his voice tinged with sorrow. "But I've also seen incredible resilience and hope. That's what we're fighting for." Leora listened intently, her respect for Jack growing with each passing day. Their bond deepened, forged in the fires of adversity and strengthened by their shared determination. As they neared the outskirts of the capital, the tension among the rebels was palpable. The city's spires loomed in the distance, a stark reminder of the challenge that lay ahead. They knew that the final battle would be their most difficult test yet. Leora stood before the assembled rebels, her voice steady and confident. "We're almost there. We've fought hard to get to this point, and we won't back down now. Together we can do this." The rebels cheered, their spirits lifted by her words. They knew that the stakes were high, but they were ready to face whatever came their way. As they prepared for the final assault, Leora felt a sense of resolve settle over her. She was ready to confront her uncle and reclaim her throne. With Jack by her side and the rebels at her back, she knew they could achieve the impossible. "Together we can do this," Leora said, her voice filled with determination. Jack placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll make it through this, Leora. I believe in you." With those words, they set out towards the capital, their hearts filled with hope and determination. The journey had been long and arduous, but they were ready for the final confrontation. The fate of their world rested in their hands, and they would fight with everything they had to reclaim it. The capital city loomed ahead, its spires piercing the night sky. The rebels moved silently through the shadows, guided by Leora and Jack. Their mission was clear: infiltrate the city, disable the key defenses, and seize control. Leora and Jack led a covert operation to disable the city's defenses. The night air was thick with tension as they moved from one objective to the next. Their first target was the main power grid, a massive structure that supplied energy to the city's defenses. They approached it with caution, taking out guards and bypassing security systems. "Almost there," Jack whispered as he worked on the control panel. Sparks flew as he disabled the grid, plunging sections of the city into darkness. The defenses were down, but their actions had not gone unnoticed. Suddenly, alarms blared and enemy forces swarmed their position. A fierce street battle ensued, explosions and blaster fire lighting up the night. Leora fought at the forefront, her combat skills honed from weeks of training. Jack was by her side, his strategic prowess turning the tide in their favor. "Hold the line." Leora shouted to the rebels, her voice cutting through the chaos. They rallied around her, pushing back the enemy forces. Despite the overwhelming odds, the rebels' determination and unity shone through. As the battle raged on, Jack confronted a shadow from his past. An old nemesis, a former comrade turned enemy, stood in his path. Their eyes locked, and the world around them seemed to fade. "It's been a long time, Jack," the nemesis sneered. "Too long," Jack replied, his voice steady. They clashed in a brutal fight, each move precise and deadly. Jack's resolve and skill eventually overcame his opponent, but the victory was bittersweet. Meanwhile, Leora's leadership in battle solidified her place among the rebels. She gave a rousing speech, her words filled with passion and determination. "We fight for our future." For freedom, she declared, her voice echoing through the streets. Inspired by her words, the rebels fought with renewed vigor. They pushed forward, gaining control of a critical stronghold. The tide of the battle had turned in their favor, but Leora knew the hardest part was yet to come. As dawn approached, the rebels fortified their position and prepared for the final assault. Leora and Jack stood together, surveying the battlefield. The capital was within their grasp, but the palace, where her Uncle Varian held power, remained a formidable obstacle. "We've come this far," Leora said, her voice filled with resolve. "We can't stop now." Jack nodded, his eyes reflecting the determination he saw in Leora. "We fight together. For the future of our people." The stage was set for the final confrontation. The rebels were ready, their spirits unbroken. As they prepared to move out, Leora felt a surge of hope. They had secured a strategic advantage, but the ultimate test lay ahead. "Stay strong," she told her comrades. "Together, we can achieve the impossible." The rebels cheered, their voices rising in a chorus of unity and defiance. The final battle for the throne was about to begin, and they would fight with everything they had to reclaim their world. The rebels gathered at the edge of the palace grounds, their hearts pounding with anticipation. Leora and Jack led the charge, their eyes fixed on the towering structure that symbolized both hope and betrayal. The plan was daring and risky, but they had no other choice. As they moved towards the palace, they faced heavy resistance from elite enemy forces. The air was filled with the sounds of clashing swords and blaster fire. Leora fought with a fierce determination, her every move calculated and precise. Jack was a whirlwind of strength and strategy, his presence a steady anchor in the chaos. They reached the palace doors, where a group of elite guards awaited them. The battle was intense, but the rebels' resolve was unshakable. With every strike and parry, they pushed closer to their goal. The hallways of the palace echoed with the sounds of conflict, the grandeur of the setting contrasting sharply with the brutality of the fight. Leora and Jack led the rebels through the labyrinthine corridors, finally reaching the throne room. The grand doors swung open, revealing Varian seated on the throne, flanked by his loyalists. His expression was a mixture of surprise and disdain. "Leora," Varian sneered, "I should have known you would come crawling back." "This ends now," Varian, Leora declared, her voice steady and strong. "For the future of our people." A climactic battle erupted in the throne room. Leora confronted Varian, their swords clashing in a deadly dance. Each strike was filled with the weight of betrayal and the hope for redemption. Jack, meanwhile, faced off against Varian's strongest guards, his skills and determination unyielding. Varian fought with a savage ferocity, but Leora's resolve was stronger. She pushed him back, her movements fueled by the memories of her family's downfall and the suffering of her people. With a final, powerful strike, she disarmed Varian, sending his sword clattering to the ground. Varian fell to his knees, his face contorted with rage and fear. "You think you've won, Leora? This is just the beginning." "No, Varian," Leora said, her voice filled with a calm strength. "This is the end." With that, she delivered the final blow, ending Varian's reign of terror. The room fell silent, the weight of their victory settling over the rebels. Leora stood tall, her heart filled with a mixture of triumph and sorrow. Jack approached her, his expression one of pride and respect. "You did it, Leora. You reclaimed your throne." Leora nodded, tears streaming down her face. "We did it, Jack, together." The rebels secured the palace, their victory a beacon of hope for the future. Leora's transformation into a true leader was complete, her journey of courage and redemption resonating with all who had fought by her side. Jack, too, found a sense of peace and acceptance, his past reconciled with the promise of a brighter future. As Leora took her place on the throne, the rebels gathered around her. The palace, once a symbol of betrayal, now stood as a testament to their unity and resilience. The battle was over, but the work of rebuilding their world had just begun. "We have a long road ahead," Leora said, addressing her people. "But together we can create a future of justice and peace." The rebels cheered, their voices filled with hope and determination. Leora looked at Jack, who nodded in silent agreement. They had faced countless challenges and emerged stronger. The future was theirs to shape, and they would do so with courage and conviction.